Hello from Mindset Daily, wishing you a day full of health, peace, and happiness. Thank you for watching the Mindset Daily channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us. Thank you so much.
Have you ever noticed someone who copies everything you do but never celebrates your success? They don't want to learn from you. They want to be you. And behind every imitation lies a quiet resentment that reveals something deeper: jealousy. One of the clearest 7 signs someone is extremely jealous of you is this: they imitate you, but they never celebrate you. They watch your every move, not out of admiration or humility, but to mirror your actions in secret, hoping to match your steps while resenting the path God has given you. They study the way you speak, the way you carry yourself, and even how you treat others. But their hearts are not filled with inspiration, only comparison. And comparison, when left unchecked, becomes the root of jealousy. Jealousy isn't always loud or obvious. Sometimes it's quiet, disguised in imitation. They might echo your habits, follow your words, and mirror your lifestyle, yet never once say, "I'm proud of you." Because their imitation isn't respect, it's competition. It's the desire to wear your crown without carrying your cross. Those who are truly secure can celebrate others. They can say, "Look at how far God has brought her," or "Look at the blessings in his life." But jealousy keeps the mouth closed when it should be praising, and opens it only to criticize or compete. They see your light, not to let it guide them, but to try to steal it. They copy how God blesses you as if imitation could produce the same harvest. But fruit doesn't grow from imitation. It grows from cultivation, obedience, prayer, and patience. You had to endure trials to become who you are today. Someone jealous of you always tries to skip the process and imitate the product. They'll take your words but not your wisdom, mimic your style but never your struggle. They crave the outcome but reject the obedience that birthed it. They want the influence but not the integrity. They want the applause but not the anointing. And when they fail to become you, because God never made 2 of you, they begin to resent you even more. Have you ever met someone who copies everything you do yet never acknowledges you? Never says thank you? Never admits you've inspired them? That's not admiration. That's envy. Jealousy refuses to honor the vessel. It wants the oil without respecting the jar, the treasure without paying the price. So they imitate in silence and refuse to celebrate in public, because acknowledging you would mean admitting that God placed something special on your life. And that's what jealousy can't stand: that he chose you, called you, and blessed you. It burns inside them, not because you've done wrong, but because your obedience exposes their disobedience. Your purpose highlights their insecurity. Your progress reminds them of their procrastination. Instead of becoming like Christ, they try to become like you. But listen carefully. You don't have to shrink to make anyone feel comfortable. You don't have to stop growing just because they choke on the dust of your footsteps. God didn't bless you to stay hidden. He didn't pour oil on your head so you could play small to protect the fragile pride of those who refuse to heal. If they want what you have, let them seek the God who gave it. Let them do the work, pray the prayers, endure the storms, and carry the cross. Don't just copy the crown, and don't let it shake you. Don't let jealousy make you bitter or steal your joy. When others imitate you without honor, guard your heart. Stay humble, stay faithful, stay obedient. Because what's on your life isn't meant for imitation, it's meant for impact. Only those who walk closely with God in truth can carry it with grace. So keep shining, keep growing, keep going. Because no matter how many try to follow your steps, they can never duplicate your spirit. What's inside you doesn't come from this world, it comes from above. Let them watch, let them copy, but never let them distract you from the purpose God has assigned to you. When His hand is on your life, no imitation can ever replace you. And one of the clearest 7 signs someone is extremely jealous of you is how they react to your success. They won't say they're jealous. That would be too obvious. Instead, they hide envy behind smiles and words that sound kind, but cut deep. They'll say things like, "You just got lucky," or "It's not that big of a deal," or "Anyone could have done that." On the surface, it sounds harmless. But if you listen closely, you'll hear the truth in their tone. That's not encouragement. That's subtle sabotage. It's their way of shrinking your success into something they can tolerate. It hurts, doesn't it? To climb a mountain only to be told it's just a small hill. To see the fruit of years of labor, prayer, and tears dismissed as if it came without sacrifice. But that's what jealousy does. It can't handle the light within you, so it tries to dim it. Jealousy can't celebrate your elevation, so it tries to minimize it. It can't face the grace of God on your life, so it criticizes how it shows up. But remember this, your success isn't accidental. You didn't stumble into your purpose or simply get lucky. You paid a price for this. You sowed in silence. You obeyed when no one was watching. You trusted God in seasons of loneliness. You cried in the dark while the world thought you were fine. You sacrificed, you surrendered, and you stayed when others walked away. So when someone tries to downplay what God has done in your life, never let their small perspective shrink your breakthrough. Some people can't offer genuine praise because your rise exposes their lack of growth. Your discipline convicts their delay. Your favor reminds them of the faith they never acted on. To protect their pride, they cover bitterness with sarcasm and shallow words. They act indifferent to what God is doing for you, but deep down, it stings. Because you became what they only dreamed of becoming someday. And now that your someday has come, they're left with the truth that they chose comfort while you chose calling. Sometimes the people who should clap the loudest are the ones who stay silent the longest. Not because they missed your journey, but because they saw it. Every trial, every tear, every moment you refused to quit. Seeing you win reminds them of every excuse they ever made for not trying. So instead of celebrating, they try to pull you down just enough to feel taller. They won't say congratulations, but they'll whisper, well, not everyone thinks that's a big deal. They won't say, well done, but they'll ask, are you sure that's going to last? They won't say, I'm proud of you, but they'll whisper, I just don't want you to get too full of yourself. And in those moments, you must be careful, because the enemy will try to use their words to creep into your spirit. He'll whisper, maybe they're right. Maybe you haven't done anything special. Maybe you should tone it down, stop trying so hard. But that's a lie. You didn't come this far to doubt your worth just because someone else can't see it. You didn't fight silent battles only to let a few careless words make you forget how far you've come. Those who are truly for you will lift you up. They'll speak life, remind you of the cost, and celebrate your reward. They don't need to compete or compare, because they know the same God who blessed you can bless them too. But those secretly jealous will praise you with one hand and push you down with the other. Their compliments are conditional, their support selective, and their tone always just slightly off. That's not love. That's resentment hiding in plain sight. So what do? You keep going. You keep building. You keep giving God the glory. Because when He raises you up, no backhanded comment can bring you down. Your value doesn't depend on their validation. Your calling doesn't need their confirmation. You were chosen, set apart, and sent forward by a power far greater than their opinion. Let them talk. Let them twist your success into something small. Let them pretend your journey was easy. Deep down, they know the truth. What God is doing in your life can't be denied, only ignored. And sooner or later, even they won't be able to hide from it. One of the hardest truths you'll ever face is this. Some people can't stand to be around you when you're doing well. They smile during your storms, but go silent in your sunshine. They vanish when you rise and suddenly reappear when you fall. That's not friendship. That's not love. That's jealousy. And it runs deeper than words. It's not just what they say, but when they choose to show up and when they choose to walk away. Because someone who truly loves you, who genuinely wants the best for you, doesn't disappear when God begins to elevate your life. They don't grow distant because you stepped into your season. Real people, godly people, will clap for you even while they're still waiting for their own breakthrough. But the jealous heart can't do that. It's too wounded, too insecure. It can't celebrate your victories because your blessing reminds them of what they believe they lack. So they pull away, not to protect their peace, but to protect their pride. Have you ever noticed how some people who once stood beside you, who used to call and encourage you, slowly drift away the moment your life begins to change? They supported you when you were struggling, when you were broken and uncertain. But the moment God started answering your prayers, when doors opened and favor began to flow, they faded. You didn't brag. You didn't boast. You were simply blessed. And somehow, that alone was enough to stir bitterness in their spirit. To them, your joy feels like judgment. Your progress reminds them of their stagnation. Your peace exposes the chaos they've ignored. So they withdraw, not because of something you did, but because of something they never did. You moved forward while they stayed where it felt safe. You obeyed while they hesitated. You trusted God in the wilderness, and He brought you out, but they're still wandering, still wondering, still wishing. Instead of seeing your breakthrough as a testimony, they see it as a threat. But listen carefully. When someone walks away from your success, don't chase them. God isn't building your future on the foundation of people who can't handle your growth. If they couldn't celebrate you in this chapter, they don't belong in the next one. If your light makes them retreat, they were never meant to walk with you into the brightness of what's coming. And just as they vanish when you shine, they'll reappear when you struggle, not to help or restore you, but to feel better about themselves. Your weakness makes them feel strong. Your brokenness makes them feel whole. Your fall soothes their pride. They may never say it, but deep down, they find peace when you're in pieces. That's what jealousy does. It finds comfort in your pain and discomfort in your progress. But don't let that discourage you. Don't let it harden your heart. Don't let their silence during your victories make you question your worth. Sometimes God allows people to walk away, not as punishment to you, but as protection from them. He sees what you don't. He hears what's said behind your back. He knows the motives behind their masks. And when someone's heart can't handle your harvest, God will remove them before their envy turns into sabotage. You don't need an audience to be anointed. You don't need a crowd to be called. You don't need everyone to understand your assignment. As long as God is with you, you're never alone. When the wrong people walk out, it only clears space for the right ones to walk in. Surround yourself with people who don't compete but uplift, who don't criticize but encourage, who don't shrink in your light but shine beside you. So when someone disappears during your success, don't let it break you. Let it build you. Let it remind you that favor attracts friction and elevation exposes envy. Not everyone who begins with you is meant to stay. God will place around you those who can handle your purpose, people who can bless your breakthrough, rejoice when you rejoice, and stand firm when you stand tall. Because when you step into what God has prepared for you, you don't need the approval of the jealous. You only need the presence of the faithful. Jealousy is a quiet storm. It doesn't always come with confrontation or harsh words. Sometimes it hides behind a smile. Sometimes it walks beside you, clapping in public while competing in private. One of the most dangerous 7 signs someone is extremely jealous of you is that they pretend to support you while secretly trying to outdo you. They act like they're cheering you on, but inside, they're keeping score, comparing your wins to their losses, your joy to their emptiness. And when they see your progress, it stirs something unsettled in their heart. They don't want you to fail outright. They just don't want you to rise higher than them. So they disguise competition as companionship, envy as encouragement, and comparison as concern. But discernment will show you the difference. Because real friends celebrate your light without feeling smaller in it. They walk beside you not to compete, but to complete the purpose God placed in both of you. You think you're walking together, but they've quietly turned the journey into a race, one only they know they're running. This kind of silent competition is hard to see because it's wrapped in kindness. They'll compliment you one moment, then try to outdo you the next. You share a win, and they share a bigger one. You mention a breakthrough, and they casually mention their own blessing. Always just a little ahead, always a bit louder. They don't celebrate you to lift you up. They acknowledge you just enough to remind you they're still in the frame. Their encouragement doesn't come from love. It comes from insecurity. They don't want you to fall, not really, but they don't want you to rise higher than them either. So they keep pace, not because they're inspired, but because they're afraid to be left behind. They compete not with your enemies, but with you, and still call it friendship. That's the danger. That's the deception. They act like they're with you, but in truth, they're measuring their worth against your progress. That's what jealousy does. It can't find peace in its own purpose, so it tries to outrun yours. It isn't content with God's plan for their life because their eyes are fixed on what He's doing in yours. And when jealousy takes root, it isn't inspired by your growth, it's threatened by it. Instead of asking God, "How can I grow?" they ask themselves, "How can I stay ahead of them?" And that's where the quiet competition begins. They won't say it aloud, but it shows in the way they always need to be first, always need to be noticed, always need to remind others what they're doing. They can't let you have a moment without stepping into it, too. And if you're not careful, you'll start questioning yourself. You'll start wondering, am I doing too much? Is my light too bright? Is my success making others uncomfortable? But hear this, you don't need to shrink to make others feel safe. You don't have to hide what God is doing in your life just to protect someone else's insecurity. If someone feels the need to compete with you, it's because they've forgotten who they are. People who know their purpose don't need to copy yours. Those who truly walk with God don't run against His children. There's no finish line in the kingdom of heaven, only obedience, faithfulness, and the daily surrender that says, "Here I am, Lord. Use me." And if someone can't support you without secretly trying to surpass you, they're not walking in love, they're walking in jealousy. Relationships like that are always fragile, because the moment your success grows beyond their comfort, they'll pull away or try to tear you down. They'll question your motives, doubt your integrity, and criticize your journey, not because you've done something wrong, but because they can't handle the truth that you're doing something right. That's why you must guard your spirit. Learn to discern the difference between those who are truly for you and those simply trying to keep up with you. The ones who are for you will rejoice when you rejoice. They won't try to outshine you. They'll shine with you. They won't make your victories about them. They'll make them about God. They won't compete. They'll complement. Because real love doesn't compare. True friendship doesn't compete. Genuine support is never afraid of your success. And if you constantly find yourself downplaying your blessings to protect someone else's pride, ask yourself, are they really for me? Because when someone truly loves you, they don't just stand with you in the valley. They climb beside you to the mountaintop. And when you reach it, they don't say, "Look what I've done too." They say, "Look what God has done in you." So walk in confidence. Walk in boldness. Walk in truth. Don't be distracted by those who clap with one hand and count with the other. Your calling is too great, your purpose too important, and your time too valuable to waste competing with people who were never meant to be your rivals. Let them race. Let them measure. Let them chase. But as for you, keep walking with God. Keep doing what He called you to do. Because in His will, there is no competition, only completion. And here's something deeper. Jealousy often hides in the shadows of humor. One of the most revealing 7 signs someone is extremely jealous of you is when they start making jokes that aren't really jokes. They'll laugh as they throw little jabs, masking envy as humor. They'll make light of your progress, downplay your blessings, or tease your confidence just enough to plant doubt in your spirit. You see, jealousy rarely shows its face directly. It disguises itself in laughter, in sarcasm, in comments that sound harmless but sting just enough to make you second-guess your worth. But pay attention, because every joke that cuts too deep is often truth wrapped in disguise. Real friends use their words to build, not break. They don't mock your growth, they magnify it. They don't laugh at your light, they help you shine brighter. And when you understand that, you'll stop apologizing for the way God is elevating your life. You know the type, those little jabs disguised as laughter, those sarcastic remarks that sting just a bit too much, those so-called jokes that always come after you share something you're proud of. They smile when they say it, but the truth hides just beneath the surface. It's not lighthearted. It's not harmless. It's envy wearing the mask of humor. They'll laugh and say, "Oh, look at you now," but there's tension in their tone. They'll joke, "Don't forget us when you're famous," but insecurity hides behind the words. They'll tease, "You must think you're better than us now," and then laugh it off as if it's all in fun. But if you listen closely, you'll hear it, the hollow laughter, the sharp tone. That's not a joke. That's a warning. It's their way of revealing what they're too afraid to admit. Your progress unsettles them. It's subtle, but powerful, because humor disarms us. It catches us off guard. We're told, "Don't take it personally," or "They're just kidding." But deep down, you feel it. You sense that twist in your spirit, that quiet discomfort whispering, something isn't right. That's discernment, the voice of God reminding you. Pay attention to the fruit, not the tone. Because people often say in jest what they don't have the courage to say in truth. When jealousy speaks, it often hides behind humor, so it won't be confronted. You must be wise enough to hear the heart behind the laughter. Some people don't joke to make you smile. They joke to make themselves feel better. When they see you rising, they feel like they're shrinking. Instead of growing with you, they'd rather keep you small through sarcasm. They'll downplay your dreams, mock your ambition, or make light of your faith. Not because you've done something wrong, but because you're doing something right. You're becoming who they once claimed they would be, and now the weight of their own excuses is too heavy to bear. And here's the hard truth. They might not even realize they're doing it. That's how deep jealousy runs. It seeps into the heart and slips out sideways. It twists compliments into comparison, hides behind laughter, and lingers in the silence between their words. They don't say, "I'm jealous." They say, "Oh, really? You think you can do that?" followed by a laugh. But the message is the same: stay small. They'll say, "Don't get too confident. Don't make me uncomfortable with your growth." But hear this: God didn't call you to shrink. He didn't anoint you to apologize for your anointing. He didn't bless you so you could hide your blessings behind false humility. When He places something in your hands, you honor Him by carrying it with boldness, not fear. You don't owe an explanation for your calling to those who use jokes to cover their own confusion. You don't have to justify your journey to people who mock what they don't understand. You are not the problem. Your light is not the issue. Their discomfort is not your burden to carry. If someone chooses to laugh at what God is doing in your life, let them laugh. But don't let their laughter silence your testimony. Don't let their sarcasm weaken your vision. Don't let their jokes cause you to doubt your purpose. And if you must walk alone for a season, walk boldly. Sometimes God separates you, not because people hate you, but because their hidden envy would one day hinder you. He sees the whispers behind closed doors. He hears the laughter that carries bitterness. And in His mercy, He removes you from environments where your faith is mocked, your growth is resented, and your destiny is treated like a joke. Not to isolate you, but to protect you. So stand tall. Speak boldly. Never dim your joy just because someone else can't celebrate it. Don't laugh along just to keep the peace. Don't mistake sarcasm for sincerity. Test every spirit. Know who's truly for you. And when the joking becomes too sharp, too consistent, too familiar, listen closely, because what people laugh about often reveals what they resent the most. When the jokes stop sounding funny and start feeling like arrows, it's time to see them for what they really are. Jealousy doesn't always shout. Sometimes it laughs. There's something you begin to notice over time. When you're growing, following the path God set before you, and quietly bearing fruit, you realize something. Not everyone claps when you win. Not everyone reaches out when you share good news. And one of the clearest 7 signs someone is extremely jealous of you is this: they go silent in your success. Not because they're busy, not because they missed it, but because deep down, they can't handle the reality that you're walking in the very thing they only talk about. When you were hurting, they were present. When you were lost, they offered advice. But now that you're healing, now that doors are opening and prayers are being answered, they say nothing. It's not that they didn't see your blessing. It's not that they forgot to respond. It's that your victory feels too heavy for their pride to carry. Jealousy doesn't always sound like loud criticism. Sometimes, it sounds like silence in the moments that matter most. It looks like a blank stare when you expected celebration. It shows up as a cold shoulder when you hoped for a warm embrace. And sometimes, God blesses you so much that the very people you thought would always stand beside you begin to fade away. Not because you wronged them, but because your life exposes what they never faced in theirs. Your favor becomes a mirror to their frustration. Your joy reminds them of the emptiness they tried to hide. And instead of rising with you, they retreat, not by accident, but by choice. Because for some, it's easier to watch you struggle than to watch you succeed beyond their comfort. The thing about that kind of silence is that it's not just quiet, it's heavy. It can weigh on your spirit if you're not careful. You start wondering, did I do something wrong? Did I say too much? Am I making them uncomfortable? Before long, you begin shrinking your joy just to avoid being alone in your celebration. But remember, it's not your responsibility to silence your blessing for someone else's insecurity. What God is doing in your life is not something to hide. It's something to honor. Here's a truth that's hard but holy. Some people go quiet because they can't fake support forever. Their silence is their truth. Their absence is their confession. And when someone cannot rejoice when you rejoice, it reveals a sickness in their spirit that only God can heal. But that's not your job. It's not your burden to carry their brokenness while you're already carrying the weight of your calling. Sometimes, their silence is the very confirmation that you've outgrown the season they belong to. You don't need applause to move forward. You don't need validation from people who only show up when you're down. And you certainly don't need to slow your pace to match someone who stopped walking. The truth is, silence can be a gift. It exposes motives, reveals hearts, and shows who's really with you, not just in the wilderness, but in the promised land. When Jesus performed miracles, the crowd gathered. But when he was betrayed, only a few stayed. And even among the few, not all remained faithful. That's the lesson. Not everyone who walks with you will worship with you when God elevates you. Some will stay silent because your growth offends the part of them that refuses to grow. But child of God, don't let that discourage you. Let it sharpen your focus. Let it purify your circle. Let it anchor your faith not in man's approval, but in God's presence. You were never meant to live on human applause. You were created to walk in divine purpose. Even when the only sound you hear is your own footsteps and the quiet whisper of the Holy Spirit saying, keep going. Because when the noise fades and support grows thin, God remains. And His voice is louder than 1,000 silent mouths. So if you're in a season where the people you once counted on have gone quiet, if those you once celebrated can no longer celebrate you, take heart. That silence isn't a loss, it's a revelation. It's heaven showing you who is aligned with your destiny and who is only attached to your delay. Let them be silent. Let them step back. But you, keep rejoicing, keep praising, keep testifying. Because the work God began in your life is too powerful to be silenced by someone else's jealousy. Their silence doesn't stop your purpose. It only proves your progress. Thank you for watching. I wish you health, happiness, and peace. And remember to subscribe to my channel, Mindset Daily.